Oh, yeah. 6'7". Hadn't shrunk much since I was 16. Not yet.
All right, questions for Coach Bowen? Anything?
We just asked Coach Pry about it. Saw some videos of Kyron last week down in Miami working out with Daquan and Ali and a couple other opposing quarterbacks. How do you like that as an offensive coordinator to see him getting that kind of work in the offseason? And does he come to you and, like, tell you what his plan is when he does stuff like that?
Well, we come up with a plan on what days and what type of routes, how much volume he needs to throw over break. And like most quarterbacks nowadays, they not only are they training here with myself, Coach Chris, everybody that's involved with our strength staff, but they also have a personal quarterback trainer at home. That's certainly something that we don't shun away. It's something that we have a relationship and communicate with them. So when they go home, we're able to kind of continue development, make sure we're getting the volume of throwing. So I love it. I love seeing our guys go wherever, get a chance to compete, meet new people, work out. I think it's all good work.
At this time last year, Kyron was just getting here, and Ali was hurt in the spring. Daquan was just getting here. To see them have this full off season where they're able to throw together like that, how much do you think that will show up by the time you get to the fall?
Well, we sure hope it does. I mean, I think, we've mentioned a lot. I think the continuity with our skill positions, not only the guys that have, started games before, but also the guys behind them. I think that continuity's got a chance to pay dividends for us. Just the timing, the understanding. There's a lot of detail that goes into every route, so those guys understanding body language, being able to deliver the ball a little faster, I think it's got a chance to help us for sure.
With Kyron coming back as the established number one guy, how do you split up the reps this spring and get a good long evaluation of those backups?
Yeah, well, for sure, right? Kyron's going to get the ones reps and, continue with the continuity, the development, the operation of what we're doing offensively. But I'm excited of the way Pop and Dylan have competed during phase one, and those guys will get an even split. Some days guys going with the twos, some days that rotating back with the threes to make sure that they're getting reps with the right guys so we can make a true evaluation.
How you look at this entire offense and you bring back most every piece, how important is spring in terms of developing depth along the entire offense for your group and really establish positions?
Can you say that one more time? I missed the middle piece of that.
Establishing the depth around the entire offense because of bringing back so much. How important is this spring, especially on the offensive line where you're going to try to find your five best?
Yeah, I think it's critical, right? I mean, we do have continuity, but there's going to be a lot of competition at every position. I think we've got, a little bit of a standpoint even at the skill places where we've got backups that are going to be vying for bigger roles. On the offensive line, for sure, you got two or three young talented guys. You've got a transfer coming in, so I mean, it's going to be critical. It's going to be critical, just like you said. We've talked a lot as a staff about making sure we mix those guys around up front to find the best five. I think, Coach Pry hit on it in here, but with the tight end position, that's going to afford some opportunities for receivers to take a bigger role during spring ball. So we're excited to do all that. I think that at the end of the day, we want to have a diverse offense, and I think all of those things allow us to create flexibility within the offense. I think spring's a time where we're finding what each player does really well. I think there's some known commodities, but there's things these guys have worked on like crazy since we played that last game. So seeing what their strengths are, seeing what our weaknesses are and identifying those, and then ultimately starting to put a picture together before we go into summer and fall camp of like, hey, this is this guy's strong suit. Let's make sure we're trying to put him in a position to do those things.
You mentioned the tight end position with Gallo still coming back. I believe Gosnell's out for Stu brought up he's out for the first part. Right. How big is spring for Harrison and Cole and Jaricius and Zeke and all those guys to try to get some reps?
Oh, it's critical, and they're going to be afforded the opportunity to get reps, right? I mean, there's going to be some of it by necessity. Guys that maybe weren't going to be afforded as many reps are going to get thrust into a role where they're going to have an opportunity to showcase their skill set, and the more positive things that come out of that, those reps will grow. So it's certainly it's big for every position, but that's a position that's you're going to have some young guys getting thrust into roles that they haven't been in.
I wanted to ask you about bringing in for a high school relations guy like Gunnar Brewer. How vital is that to help you out, especially in recruiting and what he's able to do, and especially his background with helping develop players, especially wide receivers?
Oh, he's awesome. Been a great addition to the staff. It's been, it's only been a few days to this point, but I've known Gunner in the past. Excited that he's with us for a lot of different reasons. Obviously, his recruiting ties in the region. I've heard that name going to recruit at different places, almost everywhere I've been. But then also, being able to bounce an idea, get his expertise on certain things, I think that's a welcomed addition to our staff.
Morning, Coach.
Morning.
Coach Pry was just in here.
It's like afternoon for us right now. We were in that indoor early.
There we go. We were just talking to Coach, and he mentioned how it was a big emphasis to work on play action protection this spring. So rolling out left and right, how does it starts with the 5 up front, and how do you really emphasize that fitting in that group with new guys, Hogg, Montavious coming in, Lath Ganem, Johnny Garrett making big strides in phase 1 to step up?
Yeah, no, I mean, they've worked their tails off in phase 1 to answer kind of the last part of that. But, going back to the beginning of your question, the number one thing again, and I know I say this up here every time we started to see, some fruits of that labor. The number one thing for us is identifying and creating that identity in the run game. But then a big point of emphasis this offseason is developing the play action protections that are going to allow us to push the ball down the field. That's something we identified that we want to make a little bit better, a little bit more diverse, a little bit more operable in what we're doing. So I'm excited. Those guys have, we're able to do a lot with these guys in the winter now, more than the past. It's not contact, but there's a lot of teaching. I call it meat on your feet. You're able to get out there, get a visual meeting, put guys in a position on the field to learn what we're trying to do. So I'm excited to start seeing some live bullets fly and let those guys go out and compete.
And you said with the tight end position, it will allow some of these wide receivers to step up. What have you liked out of Chance Wiggins and how his frame is kind of filled out phase 1?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see him on the field, but I've been very pleased with both of those guys, him and Brody coming in, working their tail off. They're kind of old school throwback guys that just mouth shut, go to work every day, grow. It's not always easy. There's that a big adjustment. Those guys should still be in high school right now, but, Chance's frame, the way he moves around out there, we're really excited to see him get out and spring ball and go up and make plays.
And lastly, you mentioned that QB2 battle between Dylan and Pop. How do they really set themselves apart in phase 1, or does the rubber really meet the road here when the bullets start flying, as you said?
Yeah, I think the first thing at quarterback in general, and this is still areas that we're growing every day, and the first thing is you've got to be able to operate and master the offense, right? And that offense can be catered to those guys' skill set. Coming into, last year this time they're early enrollees, right? So coming into a new situation with those guys, knowing what they do better. There's some of that where we can cater a little more to their skill sets to really allow them to compete in things they're comfortable with, but it's also identifying the weaknesses. But it all starts, going back to the beginning of that statement, it starts with operating the offense, having command on the field. Their first job as a quarterback, I use an analogy to basketball, their first job is to play point guard. Like, it's your job. You're going to have the ball in your hand on every snap, and whether it's a run, a RPO, a pass, a check with me, an alert, they've got to make a decision. And their decision is based on being able to distribute the football where it's best on the field, right? And then from there, as you master that part of it, we ask them, hey, there's going to be 3, 4, 5 plays a game. We're going to ask you to be a shooting guard. We're going to ask you to go make a play. But it all starts with playing point guard. If guys can just play point guard within the offense and distribute the ball to playmakers, they're going to start to separate themselves. So that's what I'm looking for. The command, the control, the communication to the offensive line and the guys up front, the handling. Hey, if a motion, you see a receiver's not in the right spot, being able to get that guy lined up. Like, you have to be in total control out there for it to work and for those other 10 guys to believe in you. So that to me is the first thing before completion percentage and touchdown to interception ratio. It's going to be like, who can go out and operate an offense, because you can trust that. As a coach, you can trust that operation, and we can start to cater a game plan around a guy that hopefully plays to his strengths.
We have time for a couple on Zoom.
On Zoom, please use the raise hand feature again for questions for Coach Bowen. We'll open it to questions. Any questions for Coach Bowen on Zoom? Okay, Travis.
All right, we'll finish with Andy here in the room.
Position-wise, where do you envision Montavious starting out this spring?
He's going to start out competing at guard, but there's certainly a plan that we can juggle some things around as we get a guy comfortable, but he's going to start out competing at guard.
And in terms of running backs, we've seen Tootin and Malachi on the field. What have you seen out of the guys beyond them so far? Coney, Mitchell, and Mason, either in workouts or in past practices for some of the guys that have been here?
Those guys have been working hard. Now it's going to be a matter of seeing their vision on the field and seeing them put it to good use. I think that group, you look at, Coney, Traylon, Tyler Mason coming in, Pilo, I think all those guys have done a nice job working, but now it's time, hey, let's put the pads on, let's put an offensive line and a defense in front of them, and, a big part of running back is their vision, their ability to press, make cuts, pass protection. That's happening at live speed. It's easy in a walkthrough, you can kind of search your way through it, but now it's happening live bullets, they're disguising, they're changing shells, so that to me is the big part. I mean, you had, Coney was, banged up a little bit last season. Got a little bit of reps there at the end, but we were excited about some of the things he was showing last fall camp. But really, you're starting new there. There's a good competition in the back end of that room of who's going to really push to compete for those reps at the third spot.
Coach Pryor was just in here, and he emphasizes all the outside noise. Obviously, Kyron Drone's receiving a lot of noise, a lot positive right now. How has his demeanor changed, if at all, and how has he stepped up as a leader for this squad going into the season?
Demeanor-wise, I don't see a change. I think, one of Kyron's strengths is he's never too high, never too low, so I don't worry about that standpoint, but I can certainly see a comfort level with his teammates. You think this time last year he's coming into a completely new situation. Now, he's played games here. He knows the supporting cast. He's been a part of recruiting some of the skill guys around them when they come on visit. So there's certainly seems to be more of a level of control. There's less unknowns for him. Even, coming into a phase 1 workout, right? He knows what that's going to look like, what the expectation is. So I've seen that. He's continuing to grow. I see some, him being vocal with his teammates in a very positive way, which that's what we want, and just the command that he has there. So, we've done the same things. I mean, my big thing with the offense is all this noise, last year is just last year, and at the end of the day, it still wasn't where we want to be, right? So it doesn't matter. Every year, no matter how many guys you have coming back, it's my opinion you have a brand new team, right? That team is going to form its own identity. No 2 years are the same regardless of who you have coming back. So that's been the message. I mean, we've got to be able to go out and establish a new identity this year. Now, there's things we can build on, of course, right? But every team has its own identity, and they're going to rally around the leadership within that unit. Okay. All right, thanks. Thanks, guys.